Hey guys, it's Lordkaz and What Ifs here, and today I have part 2 of What If Deku had energy manipulation. So let's begin the What If. Chapter 2. Gates of Hell. All might, Okuko squeaked out. I'm sure you have questions, young lady, and I will answer them in time, the hero replied. What I am about to say must stay between us, he said as he looked at Midoriya. Young man, I deem you worthy of inheriting my power and judge you to become the next symbol of peace. Okuko's brain was already spinning, trying to comprehend the state of the number one hero who had just saved Izuku and Bakugo and then shriveled into a mere skeleton of a man before her eyes. Now he says that Izuku is going to be the next symbol of peace and inherit his power. None of this was making any sense. Wait a minute, All Might, what do you mean, inherit your power? Quirks are supposed to be unique to each individual. No one has ever heard of a quirk being passed on between different people. Izuku started to mutter, snapping Okuko back to reality. Izuku, Okuko called out. Why yes, he replied. Why don't you let All Might explain, she offered. Thank you, young lady, All Might said as he took in a deep breath to prepare his explanation. Young ones, my quirk is able to be passed down from one person to the next, building up power with each holder. The name of this power is One for All, he said as he looked at the sky. It's getting late, and you two should go home. After your classes tomorrow, meet me at Takoba Municipal Beach Park. I'll answer any more questions you have there, as well as going over both of your training regimens. Wait, both? Okuko asked. All Might smirked as he started to walk away. I'll answer any and all questions tomorrow. I guess we should just head home then. Izuku offered as All Might left the two of them. Yeah, I guess so, Okuko replied with a bit of confusion. Izuku Midoriya, Inko shouted as the two walked in. Care to explain just what you were thinking? Oh, hi mom. Guess you saw the news then, huh? Izuku asked guiltily. You bet I saw the news, she yelled before taking a deep breath to calm herself. Honey, I know you want to be a hero, but that was too dangerous. You could have. You are Mrs. Midoriya. If I may, he did inspire All Might to act, which saved both him and Bakugo. Plus, I already talked to him about it, Okuko interrupted. Inko let loose a heavy sigh as she looked over the two children. Okay, I'm glad you both are safe at the least. Izuku, we will talk more about this later tonight. Why yes ma'am, Izuku replied sheepishly. He knew she was only upset because of how much she cared for him. Now then, who's hungry? Inko offered, her tone relaxing. Izuku, you know you don't have to walk me home every time, Okuko said. I know, Izuku replied with a proud smile. Okuko laughed and rolled her eyes. Alright, just try not to inspire any more heroes on your way home, okay? Yeah, sorry about making you and my mom worry, Izuku sullenly replied. Hey now, don't start getting all down on me, she teased. The only reason your mom and I talk to you about it is because we care about you. I mean, after all, things have a different context when someone you care about says them as opposed to a random hero, Okuko explained. Now, that doesn't mean what they said was wrong, but they can't say those things when they couldn't do anything either. Okay, that's a fair point, Izuku admitted. I'm sorry if I came across as upset at you, Izuku, Okuko apologized. I mean, you're my friend and I was worried about you, that's all. I know Okuko, thank you, he replied slightly more cheerfully. A smile started to spread across his face. So, what do you think All Might has in store for us tomorrow? She asked, eager to change the conversation. I have an idea, he mused. Well, come on, don't hide it from me. If I remember right, that beach has become a massive scrapyard where people go to do some illegal dumping, Izuku explained. So we're going to clean it. That's the best I can come up with. Makes sense, right? After all, a hero doesn't just save people and fight villains, they also need to be able and willing to do community service. Okay, I know I said there was dumping going on, but this is just ridiculous. Izuku shouted as he gazed over the massive amounts of trash. He wants us to clean all this trash, Okuko asked. Indeed I do, young lady, All Might confirmed, emerging from behind some of the trash mountains. Now, as I said yesterday, I will answer any questions you have. So, fire away. All Might, I get why you would train Izuku with him being your chosen successor and all, but, why train me? Okuko asked. Young Izuku was not the only one who tried to save someone yesterday. Young All Might let the words linger. Okiko Uraraka, she answered. Young Uraraka, you tried to save your friend as he put himself in danger. The only reason you were unable to reach him was because of the pros that had stopped you. Even still you tried and, while I don't know your quirk, I can tell you have the drive to be yet another great hero, All Might answered. Wait, you yelled at me for doing that but you were going to do the same thing. Izuku accused. Well, you see. Okiko tried to work out an excuse. All Might chuckled, breaking the short argument between the two friends. Be warned, children, this training is going to be extremely difficult. In fact, he said as he pulled a sheet off of a makeshift arch he had put up before the two had arrived. You could say that this will be hell. All Might smirked as the children before him read the words carved into the arch. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. It had been 3 months since the two started their training. Each day after school, Izuku and Okiko moved trash off the beach. Okiko was forbidden from using her quirk to lighten the loads Izuku had to cart off. Each were given not only specialized meal plans, but also tailored workouts for their quirks. Okiko was forced to lift whatever her limit was at the time. If it became easier for her, All Might quickly had a new, heavier piece of trash for her to lift. Izuku's quirk training was difficult to come up with, however All Might thought of a solution. He had the young boy drain as much of his truck's battery as his quirk would allow, and with that energy, he would do various workouts that were beyond his normal capabilities. Not only did it strengthen the boy's underused quirk, but it also helped build muscles and strengthen his body in preparation for receiving one for all. Izuku dumped the load of trash he was carting up to be picked up. Very good, young Midoriya. I must say, things are going faster than I had thought they would, All Might said. Young Uraraka, I believe you and young Midoriya have done enough for the day. We don't want Mrs. Midoriya to start worrying, after all. Yes sir. The two teens replied. Young Midoriya, have you talked to your teacher more? I know you said you were hoping he would give you more to think about with your quirk, All Might asked. Oh yes, Izuku answered. I have been staying after school to talk and learn more about differences in energy. I have learned a lot from talking with him, and I think I have an idea. Oh, well, tell me young Midoriya, what is this idea? All Might asked. All Might, I want you to punch me, the young boy demanded. You what? Okiko exclaimed. Izuku, you can't be serious. A punch from All Might would probably shatter your arm. She's not wrong young Midoriya. I refuse to purposely injure you, All Might said. Okay, that's fair, Izuku said. Perhaps later on in your training we can consider it, but, as of right now, we need to focus more on training your quirk and your body for the future, All Might said. Tell me, young man, why have you not used your quirk growing up? Well, Izuku sighed. I guess it's because I never really saw much of a point in it. I mean up until recently I had thought all I could do was move energy from a battery to a nightlight, and even if I did something like take some energy and put it in another battery, that's not really a power that can save people. What are you talking about Izuku? Okiko asked. You could take energy from things and charge high-capacity batteries. That would be so useful in areas that lose power after disasters. I guess I never really thought about it like that, the young boy said meekly. Well, young Midoriya, at least we have quite a bit of time to train your quirk before the entrance exams to UA, All Might said. Don't worry, with the training regimens you both are on, I have no doubt you both will pass. Now go on home, you two. Yes sir, the two teens replied as they gathered their things and left for the day. Thank you again for helping me out, Sensei, Izuku said as he sat down in front of Mr. Nai. It's not a problem at all Midoriya. The older man replied. Now, what do you want to go over today? Well, since I have been training to get into UA's hero course, I have come up with ways to use energy I have gathered, but I don't really have a way of getting energy if I don't have a source near me, like a battery, Izuku explained. I was wondering if other things could be used to help jumpstart my abilities. Well the first thing that comes to mind is fire. It could act as an extra source like you are looking for, he explained. You see, fire takes in oxygen and other materials to use as fuel. However, as I've said before, no energy can be destroyed or lost, only transferred. This results in it giving off both heat and light. The energy given off this way would be a form of kinetic energy which, if the news coverage of that sludge villain attack was any indicator, you are already able to absorb and release. But what if I don't have a source of either electricity or fire to help me? The young boy asked. Well then, another option would be to see if you are able to draw on an increase of energy from your own body. If you were able to do that, you would have a more reliable way to gather energy before using your quirk, Mr. Nye theorized. Though I suppose that has its own risks. Like what, Sensei? Izuku asked. Well, for one, every function in your body needs energy. If you use too much without having any other source to draw from, then I imagine your body would start to shut down any non-crucial functions. If you were to do this against a villain and shut down, well, Mr. Nye left the thought to hover in the air. I see, Izuku gulped. Well, how about we just spend the rest of the time reviewing some things we've already gone over? Mr. Nye offered. Run. That's all she could do. Why did she do it? Why did she hurt him like that? She adored him, her Saito. Seeing him after that fight, something just clicked inside her. She wanted to see him all bloody like that more and more. Today was just too much. She couldn't wait anymore. She made him bloody. She made him look so good. The blood called to her. She needed it. She shoved a straw into his wounds and drank. She drank more and more of his blood. Each gulp sent shivers down her spine. Every drop gave her more and more pleasure. Then came the screams. Her classmates walked into the room, saw Saito a bloody mess and screamed. She panicked. She dropped the straw and ran. She heard classmates screaming after her, chasing her down. Nothing else mattered, she just needed to run. If she got away, maybe she could see him again. No, she knew she wouldn't. Deep down she knew what she did was wrong. Well, wrong in the sense of others. It just felt so right. She kept running. She ran out of her school, she just wanted to be free. Her parents didn't care about her. They just wanted her to be some perfect image of a daughter. A doll that they could control. Well, she wasn't going to let that happen. She turned down an alleyway. She just needed to catch her breath. She didn't know how long she had been running, but she had to be safe. Right, if she needed to stay hidden in the shadows to be free, then so be it. There's the bitch, someone shouted. You're going to pay for what you did to Saito. Someone else shouted. Shit, she panicked. She ran down the alley, desperate to get away. She wouldn't get locked away like some zoo animal or circus act. She wanted to be free, and free she would be. There was some beach nearby, right? Filled with trash. Perfect hiding spot to lose her pursuers. It was just too bad that she didn't get there in time. She was tackled to the ground by one of the faster of them, and her face skidded across the rough pavement. Then came the punches, one after another, each thrown at her in anger. She tried to cover herself as much as she could. Who was it beating on her? Namaku, Hatsu, Katsumi. Did it even matter? Tears streamed down her face as whoever it was kept beating her. Was this how she was going to die? Beaten to death and just left out in the street like some sort of road kill? Would her parents even care anymore? She heard the others' voices getting closer, cheering on the beating. Well, at least I'll be free, she thought to herself as they kept punching at the back of her head, keeping her pinned to the ground. Get off of her. Then the punches stopped. Suddenly the weight that kept her pinned to the ground was gone. She couldn't run anymore, she was too badly hurt. She turned herself over to see what made them stop. Saito, she thought weakly. Izuku was walking back home after talking with Mr. Nye again. There was so much he could learn and apply to his quirk. There was also what Okiko had told him the other day about powering batteries to help out in disaster scenarios. I should have been training my quirk all this time, he berated. Now I need to catch up to everyone else. You're going to pay for what you did to Saito. Someone shouted, ripping Izuku out of his thoughts. He watched as just down the street, someone tackled someone else and started beating them. Izuku grabbed his phone and sent All Might and Okiko a message asking for help before running towards the fight. He pulled some energy from the surrounding street lights and channeled it across his whole body. Have to help them, he shouted inside his head as he ran closer and closer to the beating. Other kids around his age gathered around and started cheering on the beating. The girl couldn't defend herself. He reeled back his arm, putting the extra energy he gathered into his muscles. An example of potential energy that might be easier for you to manipulate would be your muscles, Mr. Nye's voice echoed. They operate using spring potential energy. It's a subcategory of potential energy. I have to try something. Izuku thought. Get off of her, he shouted as he slammed his fist into the side of the boy's face. It wasn't much, but it got the boy off her. Why are you protecting her? One of the boys shouted. She hurt Saito. She was drinking his blood like it was a fucking juice box. Izuku froze. She did that. Why? He shook his head. Doesn't matter. Make sure she's safe first, then ask her questions. She's a monster. Another one shouted. Izuku. A familiar voice shouted out. Okiko ran up to Izuku's side. What's going on? She asked worriedly. Not sure, I saw these guys chasing after her and one of them started beating on her, he explained. Young man, another voice called out across the sky. Are you okay? All Might asked as he landed in front of the three children. I'm okay, but I don't know about her, Izuku explained. All Might, one of the boys called out. She attacked one of our classmates. She hurt him and started drinking his blood through a straw. She isn't human. She seems like a human to me, All Might snapped. Go home. I will take care of this, unless you want me to inform the police of your vicious actions against this girl. It didn't take much to make the boys run off. The threat of police action against them was more than enough. Young ones, I will go and inform the police. Please make sure this young girl is okay for me until the officers arrive, All Might ordered. Yes sir, they agreed as he headed towards the nearest police station. Are you okay? Izuku asked the injured girl as he helped her sit up. What's your name? Himiko Toga, she replied. Someone stood up for her, saved her. Her feelings for Saito meant something to her. Now those feelings paled in comparison to him. Why yeah, I'm okay, she said as she touched the scrape on the side of her face before wincing at the sting. Okay, maybe I've been better, she conceded. The sound of sirens broke through the still, evening air. Okay, good, help is on the way, Okiko said. Himiko sat in silence as the two other teens talked. Izuku explained to the other girl what he had seen. It didn't take too long for police and medical services to arrive, following All Might. The EMTs used one of their quirks to heal the abrasion while the other continued to look over her for any other, more severe injuries. Luckily, there didn't seem to be any more injuries, but now came the part she was afraid of most. The police. Hello there, one of the officers greeted. I am Detective Naomasa Scouchi, and this is my partner, Sansa Tamakawa, he said, gesturing to someone who resembled a cat. Is it okay if we ask you some questions? Yeah, go ahead, she replied. Great, would you mind telling us what happened and what your name is? Scouchi asked. Got attacked, he saved me, she replied, pointing to Izuku. My name is Himiko Toga. Do you know who attacked you and why? Not exactly know who, as for why, she trailed. Keeping this secret wouldn't be good for her. She took a deep breath, trying to steel her nerves. I attacked someone at my school, hurt them real bad, and started drinking their blood. Why? Sansa asked. I don't know. Something inside me just kept building up until it burst, I guess. Would you mind telling me what your quirk is and what quirk counseling service your parents enrolled you in? I know this is a bit personal, and if you are uncomfortable answering here, the detective cast a glance over to Izuku, All Might and Okiko. We could always save that for down at the station so you have some more privacy, he offered. She sighed heavily. Great. Just perfect. I can turn into people whose blood I drank. As for the counseling thing, I wouldn't call it that. My parents sent me to a quirk suppression group since they were too horrified by my quirk. Am I safe to say you and your parents don't get along well? Himiko chuckled slightly. I could probably drop dead after this and they wouldn't bat an eye. They think I'm some sort of demon child that they couldn't reform to fit in society, she spat. I see, said Scouchi. Sit tight for a moment, please. Sansa, would you mind keeping her company? Not at all, sir, Sansa said as he sat down next to Himiko. I see. What do you think we should do, Scouchi? All Might asked. Well, we did get a report of what I'd assume is the attack she spoke about. Not going to lie, All Might, the boy is in rough shape, Scouchi said. Given how she spoke about her parents, I think it's safe to say they won't care about what happens to her at this point. Are you still going to be teaching at UA? Well, of course I am, but what does that have to do with anything? All Might answered. I might have an idea, Scouchy said with a sly smirk. This was torture. She watched as that detective went over and started talking to the number one hero. Just how deep in shit was she? Wait. Did she kill Saito? Oh god. Panic gripped her. If I killed him, oh god, am I going to jail? Her thoughts ran rampant. Flight or fight instincts started screaming at her to run. Find a place to hide and sneak away. Like I would get anywhere. Fucking All Might is here. Satoga, the detective said. Have you ever thought of becoming a hero? Izuku stood atop a mountain of the last remaining trash on that beach, shouting into the air over his triumph. Not a speck remained, not just in the areas All Might told them to clean, but outside as well. Okiko offered to help him, but he had refused. He knew he should have been training more seriously if he wanted to be a hero, but he didn't. Maybe he had been hoping that he would have been given handouts to get stronger, maybe he thought his quirk would get stronger like Katsuki's. It didn't matter. He worked himself to the bone and then some to show he was ready to fight for his dream. Geez, Izuku, I didn't realize how determined you were, Okiko stated as she observed his hard work. I need to be as strong as everyone else. They had almost 10 years to understand their quirks and work at making them stronger, he replied. I need to not only close that gap, but also get even stronger. All Might believes in me after all. I can't let him down. Holy crap, kid, it's only been 8 months. All Might said in shock as he looked over the beach. I figured it would have taken you another 2 months to do the area I told you. Guess I underestimated you both. Honestly, All Might, I'd say it was mostly Izuku's hard work. He was the one moving the trash loads after all, Okiko said. But you helped him by loading the cart and using your quirk to move the heavier items, young Uraraka, All Might pointed out. And with the workouts he did using his quirk, both body and quirk improved rapidly. You have done just as much as he has. Now, young Midoriya, the time has come for you to inherit my power, he said as he plucked a hair from his head. Eat this. Quote. Ha, the two teens shouted in shock. Today was the day. UA's entrance exam. The past 3 months, All Might tried his best to train Izuku with one for all. Izuku shook his head to clear his mind. He needed to focus on the tests. He took a deep breath and looked over at Okiko. She looked back and smiled. Are you ready to ace this test? She asked. He smiled back, eyes filled with determination. Always. Get the hell out of my way before I set you on fire, a familiar voice said. Izuku tensed and nearly jumped to the side as Bakugo walked forward. Okiko glared as she stepped slightly out of the way. Come on, Izuku, let's go get seated. Okiko cheered, her normal bubbliness returning as she grabbed Izuku's hand to lead him inside. So soft, was the final thought that went through their head. What's up, UA candidates? Thanks for tuning in to me, your school DJ. Come on and let me hear ya. A boisterous blonde man announced at the podium. Almost despite his request, no one said anything in the massive auditorium. Keeping it mellow, huh? That's fine. I'll just skip straight to the main show. Let me explain to you how this practical exam is going to go down, okay? Are you ready? Again, silence from the crowd. Sheesh, this is going worse than karaoke with ectoplasm. Oh my gosh, it's Present Mike. I listen to his radio show every day of the week. It's so crazy nuts that all the UA staff are pro heroes, Izuku gushed. Shut up, Bakugo hissed. Damn it, why did he have to sit next to this useless nerd and his fucking babysitter? I know, Izuku, it's crazy. But maybe we should keep quiet just in case. Don't want to miss anything important, right? Okiko said, trying to break Izuku out of his muttering. Alright everyone, listen up. Present Mike said as the screen behind him came to life. Like your pamphlets said, you rockin' boys and girls will be taking 2-minute mock battles in super hip urban settings. Gird your loins my friends. After I drop the mic here, you'll head to your specified battle centers, sound good? There, you will fight foe villains each with an individual point value. Your goal, smash as many foe villains as possible within the time limit. This is, of course, after a written exam which you'll have 30 minutes to complete. Any questions? He asked as the screen showed a fairly simplified example of the test mechanics. Yes, I have one, announced a boy with dark blue hair. Alright, examinee number 7111, hit me. On the printout you have listed 4 types of villains, not 3. If this is a mistake on official UA material, it is shameful, he scolded. Additionally, you there with the unkempt hair, you have been muttering the entire time while the instructor was speaking. Stop it. If you aren't here to take this seriously, then you should go home. What's his problem? Okiko thought to herself. Okay, let's all calm down, Present Mike said. That 4th villain is worth 0 points. Think of it more as an obstacle to be avoided. It's not that it can't be defeated, just there's really no point. I see, my apologies, the boy said before returning to his seat. Huh, that's weird, Okiko whispered. What is, Okiko? Izuku asked in a more hushed tone. They split us up if we came from the same school, she said as she showed Izuku her examinee card. Huh, you're right, even yours is different car. Who said you can look at my card, you damn nerd, Bakugo hissed, hiding his card from Izuku. Sorry, Izuku said meekly. Alright listeners, your tests are being passed out now. Once the assistants confirm everyone has a copy, I'll let you know you can start, and then we can get on to the real fun. Present Mike announced. The written test wasn't all too difficult. It was mostly about quirk laws and hero culture across history. Those were both subjects that Izuku had practically memorized over his childhood. He now stood in front of 2 massive iron doors with several other students. This is what he was most nervous about. He forced the negative thoughts back that threatened to creep into his mind. He had to do this. No, he would do this. He would get in and show Kaken just how much he had grown. Begin. Present Mike shouted. Izuku sprinted into the battleground and started searching for villains. It didn't take long. As he rounded a corner, he quickly dodged out of the way of a 3-pointer's leg that had swung out in an ambush. Looking around, Izuku was cornered by several single-point villains along with the 3-pointer. Just like All Might's truck, he said to himself as he ripped the power out of the 3-pointer's battery as well as 2 1-pointers for good measure. Using the stolen energy, he flooded the batteries inside the remaining robots, forcing critical overloads as they fell to the ground. Okay, 10 points right off the bat, hope I can keep this up. It would be fucking robots, a voice complained. Izuku turned his head, searching for the source. Another boy with purple hair was hiding out in an alley. What's wrong? He asked as he got closer. The boy jumped to his feet, on guard. What's it to you? He asked. Well, I just thought that, maybe I could help out somehow. Izuku offered. These robots aren't really all that durable, so a well-placed attack could probably break them pretty as watch out. Izuku shouted. During his rambling, a single-point villain had snuck up behind the purple-haired boy and launched an attack. Izuku reeled back his fist as he shoved the boy behind him in an effort to protect him. All Might's voice echoed in his head. Honestly, young Midoriya, I think the most you would be able to handle at this moment would be about 5, maybe 10% of my power. Though if you could handle the backlash somehow with your quirk, you could, in theory, hit even harder than I could. Izuku channeled One for All into his coiled arm. He could feel the energy swell as he lashed out and shattered the foe villain in one hit. His arm stung as he pulled some of the backlash of energy from 10%. 10%, definitely the limit for now, he thought to himself. Wait a minute, Izuku said as he looked over the scrap littered in the alley. That's it, you could use some of their own parts to get yourself some points. The boy chuckled a bit. You know, at first I thought you were going to make fun of me for struggling. Guess I was wrong, he said. Thanks for the advice. My name is Hitoshi Shinzo. Maybe I'll see you around, Shinzo said as he picked up a small slightly sharpened piece of the villain before running off to grab more points. Izuku smiled. I hope so too, Shinzo, he called after the boy. Okay, need to get more points. 5 minutes have passed since our contestants started this portion of their exam, a small shadow observed. I wonder if they are too tired to handle their final obstacle, it said as it pressed a button. Izuku stopped for a moment to catch his breath. He had lost count after 40 points. The exam had gone on much longer than he thought it would. They must be testing us on how well we pace ourselves, and Izuku was ripped from his thoughts as the ground violently shook. He quickly tried searching for the source. It had to be planned. If not, the faculty surely would have stepped in, right? Sure enough, Izuku stood frozen in fear as he watched a massive, metal arm rise over the taller buildings in the training zone. Several others ran from the hulking monstrosity that now loomed over them. It started moving its massive arms, decimating buildings in its path. Izuku turned to run. Maybe he could lure it away somehow and lose it. That plan didn't last long. Ah, fuck, a familiar voice screamed out. Izuku looked back and there, in the path of the 0-point villain's rampage, was Himiko Toga. He hadn't even seen her. Now wasn't the time to think about that though. She was stuck under rubble from one of the machine's attacks. He ran to her, but would he make it? As he drew closer to her, so did the machine. He wasn't in range for his quirk, and even if he was, could he drain that much power? Did it matter? He needed to help her. He reached out with his quirk, still running to get to her side. Come on, reach, he shouted in his head. Izuku, Himiko said, stunned to see him here. Can you move? Izuku said, strain coming through his voice. And no, I think my ankle is broken from these damn rocks, she said as she looked around. And it looks like we have company. What had to have been the remaining villains had begun to converge upon the two. Crap, no time to think. Hope this works, Izuku shouted as he drained more and more power from the massive robot. His head pounded, every nerve screaming at him to stop, that it was too much. But the machine kept moving. As he drained more and more from its massive batteries, it slowed rapidly before the treads skidded to a halt, tearing the asphalt up as they did. Get away from her, he shouted as he unloaded all the stolen energy into as many foe villains as he could. Each one exploded from the sheer volume of electricity that surged through them. There was still more energy to output though, and Izuku could hear that massive villain rebooting. It must have a backup generator somewhere, he thought. Once again he reeled back his fist, intent on destroying this thing before it started moving again. Izuku let loose his fist with all the remaining energy charged with 5% of one for all. The behemoth fell back as the force impacted its frame. Himiko Toga watched as green lightning shot from Izuku, arcing between each of the valued robots that had charged at them before turning his focus back to the massive 0-pointer. As she watched, she felt her heart flutter and knew that the feeling she held onto since the day he saved her was there to stay. She was in love. Time's up, listeners. Present Mike's voice boomed across the training grounds. Izuku reached over to help Himiko free. He gently removed the fallen rubble that was pinning her ankle in place. Toga, are you okay? Very well done, each and every one of you are winners in my eyes, an older voice called out across the field. Does anyone have any injuries? Over here, Izuku called out. I think her ankle might be broken. Oh dear, oh my, can't have that now, can we? Let me fix you up, the small old lady said as her lips stretched to give Himiko a kiss on the top of her head. You should be all right now, sweetie. Lucky for you, it wasn't broken, just a sprain. Thank you, both of you, Himiko said as she stood up and hurried off. You should go home and get some rest too, young man, the old lady advised. Oh right, thank you for helping her recovery, girl, Izuku said as he walked back towards the bus that led to campus. Izuku and Okiko sat on the young man's bed, envelopes in hand. Inside held the results of their exams. Same time, Okiko asked. I mean, we can't sit here and just not open them. Why yeah, you're right, on 3, Izuku suggested. 1. Okiko started as her hand gripped the side of the letter. 2. Izuku continued stepping towards his desk. 3. They both finished, tearing open the envelopes. As they did, one small disc fell out of Izuku's envelope and clattered onto the desk. I am here as a projection. All Might's holographic image flickered to life. Izuku Midoriya, inside the envelope are the results of your written exams as well as which class you are in. Congratulations are in order, young Midoriya. Not only did you score an outstanding 82 combat points, but you also scored the maximum amount of secret rescue points. You have set a record with a total of 142 points. All Might shouted, and given how much I know the two of you, young Uraraka, your bravery and skill during the practical exam was outstanding. With 34 combat points and 45 rescue points you managed to come in second for your class's rankings at 79 total points. Congratulations, you two, and welcome to your Hero Academia. The two stood in shock. Izuku had set a record in the entrance exams and came in first for their class rankings. Not to mention that they would be in the same class. There couldn't have been any better news. Izuku, we did it, Okiko shouted as she excitedly gave her best friend a hug. We really did it, Okiko. Izuku responded as he returned the hug. Katsuki Bakugo was beyond pissed. Not only had he not come in first like he deserved, but both that damn nerd and his fucking cheerleader beat him. Damn Deku, he said through gritted teeth. You are going to tell me just how you did this. Izuku and Okiko were walking home together from the day at Aldera Junior High. In just over a month, they would be starting at UA together. They were ecstatic. Well, Okiko was. Izuku, what's wrong? You have been down since lunch today. Aren't you excited about UA? Okiko asked. Of course I am, he replied in a hollow tone. Then what's wrong? I'm always willing to listen, you know that, she asked again. He thought back to earlier in the day. How Karkin pulled him aside, screamed at him, demanding to know what he did while having him pressed against a wall. You must have cheated. There had to be someone in your group that got you the points. Tell me how you beat me. I swear K Karkin, I trained really hard over the past year, that's all. Izuku promised. Bullshit. No matter what, you are a useless fucking Deku. You shouldn't be able to beat me. The blonde shouted as he slammed an open palm against the wall, smoke spilling over, the blonde barely containing his quirk. Get in my way again, Deku, and you'll regret it. He tried to put on a happy face. He wanted to tell her everything was fine. However, her eyes carried so much worry and concern for him. Seeing that level of concern shattered whatever walls he had tried to build up. He broke down, sobbing. I had thought that if I managed to get into UA, Karkin would finally see that I had gotten stronger. He shouted through his sobs. But did that happen? No, he thinks I cheated to get in. I figured that if I got in, he would finally see me as someone strong. I honestly thought that if I got in, he would apologize. Apologize for making my life a living hell for almost 10 years. Izuku, Okiko didn't know what to say. She had never seen him this upset before. Bakugo didn't just hurt Izuku. He nearly destroyed him. For almost 10 years, I didn't have a single friend. Anyone who would have been my friend was scared to go against him. And the worst part, I would still forgive him. Almost every part of me says that I should forgive him for everything. Then, there's another part of me that just wants to hurt him as badly as he hurt me, and I hate it. Every time those thoughts creep up I feel like a villain. Izuku sobbed. I hate it, Okiko, I hate it so much. Okiko wrapped him in a hug. She wasn't really sure what else to do. Her family was always very affectionate, and whenever she cried, her mom and dad would hug her tight until she felt better. And she would do whatever it took to make her friend feel better again.